All right, so we're good there. It says we're live. I'm gonna double check and make sure it's actually going to YouTube.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. Yep, we're good.
Beautiful. All right,
We're good.
hell yes. All right, let me get it pulled up over here. Just gonna pull up my phone as a backup. Okay, beautiful. All right, turn that off. All right, and then I do want to. I didn't share the link to Twitter. That was a major oversight.
I do that all the time.
Dude, literally all I have to do is I'll just share it on YouTube. Just do it like that. I'll share the YouTube link, right? Because why would I share the? I'm like over here, like ready to share the StreamYard link. Like we'll just have like 300 people just poke their heads in. All right. All right. And we are live. All right, I got it tweeted out. I'll wait a few minutes, wait for at least a couple people to hop in here before we get started. But I mean, this would be pretty simple, pretty straightforward. We're going over 11 UFA options. They are all forwards. I'm not even bothering looking at the defense. And I'll tell you the truth, the reason I'm not looking at the defense because with Zach Jones, Ben Harper, and Matthew Robertson all presuming that they're going to be all under contract and on the Rangers at the start of next season, I don't think there's much of a point in bothering looking at defensemen because I don't think we're going to make that signing
That's
for a
fair.
seventh or eighth guy. You know, I don't see how it happens. And honestly, even with Libor Hayek, and I'm not a big Hayek guy, I don't think anybody is, but he's he's a RFA. More likely than not, going to re-sign him for just a penny's contract. And if we really need an eighth defenseman, I'm sure the Rangers will just make him the eighth guy.
I don't
Probably
know. You
not
might
going to
be
have a full
sleeping on a
roster.
Jared Tenorti reunion.
Third round pick to Chicago, Jared Tenorti, bring him in.
Yep. Because we
But I
need grit.
gotta have that grit, dude. I'll tell you the truth. You know who actually wouldn't surprise me, as a guy that the Rangers could call up if they do run a full roster, because I don't think they'll run a full roster. I think we should be expecting a 22-man roster.
Yeah.
Where the hell is it? He's
I
one
think
of
maybe
our.
even less. I think that after the gymnastics they had to go through to get Kane, they might be
Mm-hmm.
more cautious to make sure they accrue more cap space earlier on
Yes.
in case they need to make a move
Mm-hmm.
like that again.
Dude, 100%. But the guy I was gonna say, I wonder if they give him a shot or even a look next season if there's a lot of injuries or spot opens up. Is that guy we actually? And I'm not even kidding. You're gonna laugh. The guy we got in the freaking Patrick Nemeth trade, the Ty Emberson. Apparently, he had a pretty solid year for Hartford and looked pretty reliable. So he could be a guy
From
that
the
at least gets
game
a
that I
chance.
watched, he wasn't awful. He
No,
wasn't
like
awful.
steady. Which I mean, what more could you ask for?
Yeah.
All right, we got an okay amount of viewers in here, so I'm gonna go ahead and just jump right into it. All right, so we're looking at potential Rangers UFAs. Now this is assuming a handful of things. All right, this is assuming that this is the roster we're going into the offseason with. It's assuming Keandre Miller takes and gets the exact same contract Ryan Lindgren got, 3 times 3. It's assuming Lafreniere gets bridged to right around what Capo Caco got. I gave him 50 grand extra. And it's also assuming Tyler Mott signs an extension around the 1.4 million mark. If we bring in internal solutions and be as cheap as possible, save as much money as possible, we have one roster spot to fill, and it's a third line right wing. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think this is going to be the case, and I think you could agree with this too. I
Yeah,
don't
no
think
way.
we're going to call up Will Cooley and have him on the fourth line. I think we're better off having him on the third line or him in the minors. I think Othman's going to get a look, but I don't know.
I'll say if Knobloch's the coach, I think maybe then
Mm-hmm.
Cooley cracks the fourth line, but
Right.
that's the only scenario I think that happens. But if they bring in someone else, then yeah, I don't think he's here opening night
I agree. And
unless he
now,
kills it in the preseason.
and that's what I was going to say. If he has a really good preseason, I bet you we see him. Because I'll tell you the truth, I guarantee you that the battle that we're going to be watching in preseason is Cooley and Ottman fighting for the third line spot. And I think it's
Yes.
Ottman's spot to lose because I think he's a more well-rounded player. But I think that's going to be the battle we see. And I don't think the Rangers are opposed to having Ottman start in the minors. I don't think so. Especially with Cooley already having a season under his belt. He scored, 20 goals this year in the minors?
Yeah,
Hell,
he
he might
looked
even have 30.
good. He looked
Yeah,
good.
looked really good. I slept on Cooley a lot. I was really hard on him at first because I had Ryan Gropp hangover, but he has that one. But he actually had a really good year in Hartford. But the way I have this broken down is I have six guys that are bargain bin, and I have 5 guys after that that probably gonna be a bit more expensive. What I have for a bargain bin, the definition I have for a bargain bin is a guy that you're going to sign for 1.1 million AAV or less, and the guys that are above that are the less than bargain bin. It's crazy that the Rangers are in such a cap conundrum that $1.1 million is the difference between a bargain and a guy's like, oh, it's a lot of money we got to spend right there.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, the cap situation, which, again, I think that this is why we see Goudreau traded this offseason. I
think
think
you're
this
right.
is why.
And it sucks too because I'm not the biggest Goudreau fan in the world, basically mostly because of his contract, but he was one of the few guys in the playoffs that actually played consistently well. And as you could see, just going off that in the top right by the cap space, I mean, with this roster, which is saving as much money as possible, we have $1.8 million.
I think you were a little generous with the Laffy deal. I think he might get a little less.
You think so? I wouldn't mind
Yeah.
it. I would not mind it.
Neither would I, but I can't see a world where he could even make the $2 million. Like, Kakko just clearly was the better player this year, and with him no showing in the playoffs, I just can't see a world where he gets $2 million anymore.
I agree. And with you know how the NHL is, what have you done for me lately? He had 40 points in the regular season, which is good, but 0 points in 7 playoff games when we kind of needed you the most.
Yeah.
I mean that's big. I mean that's big value lost for Lafreniere, at least from his perspective. But anyways, let's get into it. It's a crowded slide. All right. I mean, there's a lot of faces on there.
I'm ready for this.
A lot of numbers. All right, here we go. So here's the pictures, right? So this is just some guys I threw in there. If you can name them, you can name them fine. If not, don't worry about it. But here's where it's going to get a little crowded. Bargain bin shopping. So I got 6 guys that I handpicked. These are all UFAs, and these are all guys that stood out to me the most. It took me 2 hours. I was just telling Python about this. It took me 2 hours to knock it down to these options, all right? So option number 1 is Luke Glendening. I feel like this is a guy that we've talked about the Rangers possibly taking a look at for a few years now, mainly because of his faceoff prowess. I mean, 59.1 in the faceoff dot this season, and that's like not a down year for him, but a below what he's used to year. His 8.1 hits per 60 would lead the Rangers. That's more than Trouba. His 4.26 blocks per 60 would lead the Rangers forwards. And his 0.28 net penalties per 60 and net penalties per 60. I want to be very clear about this. Net penalties per 60 is typically a very low, if not negative number. The leader in the NHL for net penalties per 60 was it was actually Tyler Mott with 1.65. Below him was I want to say Colin Blackwell with a 1.48, and then I think a 1.45 was Gauthier. Then after that, I don't even think you had anybody in the 1.2s. So honestly, if you have anything over a 0.15, you're pretty above average. So a 0.28 is really good, and that's third on the entire Rangers team. So Evan, you give your thoughts first before I get into anything else.
I like the idea. I really do. You finally get a guy, too, that could consistently win you some faceoffs as well, which would be huge because we relied on Trocheck to do that this postseason. He didn't show up. Zibanejad, he was supposed to. He didn't show up. I don't think they had a single guy in the faceoff dot go over 50% in the postseason. And
I don't think so.
Barclay Goudreau is not fit to be a center, in my opinion. I think he belongs on the wing if you're going to keep him around. To get Glendening on that fourth line as a center, I would be on board with that for sure.
Yeah, and you know what too about Luke Glendening that's lost among a lot of people that just aren't familiar with him? He's actually a really, really fast skater. He plays very hard, and even at his age, I think he's 34 years old. He's still a really quick skater, and he's kind of like a modern. It's gonna sound crazy. You sound a little weird too. It's like a modern Brian Boyle, right? Like your typical fourth line center. He's there to win faceoffs, block shots, throw hits, and not take a lot of penalties, but draw a few penalties. And I think he's a perfect fit. And especially like you said, Barclay Goudreau, I tell you the truth, I think the only reason the Rangers had Barclay Goudreau ever positioned at center is because he had one season where he was 50% in the faceoff dot, and that's it. Because positionally, he's constantly out of place. He's not winning battles in front of the net. He's not winning battles behind our net. He's a winger, and he needs to stay a winger.
He was brought here to be a winger too.
Yes, and I think to tell you the truth, you put a guy like Glendening and Goudreau on a fourth line. You put Glendening, Mott, and Goudreau. Let's play pretend. Let's say that's your fourth line. That's a solid fourth line. It's a lot of you're drawing turnovers, you're winning faceoffs. You've got three guys that could all take faceoffs. This is pretty reminiscent of the Rangers' fourth line in 2014 when you had Dominic Moore, Brian Boyle, and I think they even threw Derek Dorsett in a few faceoff dots. Obviously, he's not the greatest, but you're probably like a good draw level in faceoffs. But you roll out a fourth line of all four guys could take a faceoff. You don't have to worry about someone getting thrown out of the dot. Obviously, Glendening is your option one. You want him to take the faceoffs. But if he gets thrown out, Gaudreau is not a bad backup,
Yeah, agree with you.
So after that, we'll look at Craig Smith. We'll go down the left side first, then we'll go to the right side. So Craig Smith. Now, Craig Smith, I picked him and put him on this list before I even looked at his numbers because having played against Craig Smith when he was with Boston and then in Washington in the same season, guy's just a pain in the ass to play against.
Oh, yeah.
He plays super hard. He causes a lot of turnovers. You see 1.87 takeaways per 60 would be fifth amongst Rangers forwards. And his 4.09 hits per 60 would be sixth on the Rangers forwards. So like his per 60 numbers are good. They're not like outstanding, right? He doesn't have Glendening per 60 numbers, but they're just good enough numbers. And if he's taking a deal that's less than $1 million, this is a flyer I'd absolutely take on somebody, especially if the other options, my favorite options, who we'll get into later, aren't there. Now, the only issue I have with Craig Smith is that his possession metrics, and I use the NHL's possession metrics, the shot attempts per 60 and shot attempts percentage, they were just above average. It was just above 50%. So technically, he's on ice for more shots on goal than shots against, but it wasn't. It wasn't high. Margin. Yeah, it was barely. I think it was like 50.5 or 50.3. So it was just barely above, which honestly, for a fourth liner, you don't really even expect above 50%. So it's doable, but it's an option. I mean, what do you think?
This is probably my favorite option out of all of them on the page here because this is a guy that had an outlier of a season last year. He had 16 points last year in 60 some odd games, 64 games. And I feel like that's just an outlier because I'm looking right now. He's put up 30 points. He's even put up 50 points in the season. I feel like this is a guy that you can move up and down the lineup, and it's way better than your Barclay Goodrows. It's way better than guys like that. And he can maybe be, I'm not saying he's going to be, but he could possibly be your Jesper Fast.
I like
that Panarin, Panarin line could possibly be. Just because he could put up the points as well, and he kind of plays like that in a way. So this is probably my favorite option out of all of them.
Yeah, that's a good point you made too. He could be a Jesper Fast because throughout his career, he's played in first, second, third, and now fourth line roles in his later years. So I think he's had 20 goals like 4 or 5 times. So you never know. You might catch lightning in a bottle, and he might just turn it up. And maybe a guy like Jesper Fast, who Panarin had his best years with Jesper Fast, maybe he helps out Panarin somehow, and it just works. We never know. These things are unpredictable, right? Now, a weird option, but one that kind of surprised me when I was looking at him was Milan Lucic.
Larry Brooks' favorite.
Now, I'll tell you what surprised me the most about Milan Lucic is he only had 13 minor penalties, which would be 10th on the Rangers. He'd be tied with Kreider. And his shot attempts percentage when he was on the ice, I think was at like 55%, which is pretty above average. Like, and 11.57 hits per 60 was lower than I thought. But dude, I was shocked. And 1.99 takeaways per 60. It's 7th on the entire Rangers team, not just amongst forwards, but amongst forwards and defensemen. And his giveaways were pretty low. Like, his giveaways, I think, would have been not in the upper half of the Rangers, but not terribly below the lower half. Like, a guy like Lucic, to tell you the truth, he would be an option I would probably look at last on this list. Yeah. But he's someone I'd at least do a little bit of due diligence on, because if his takeaway numbers are, this solid, his hits are there, and he's really not taking that many penalties. I think his net penalties was just barely negative. Someone you could look at, I guess, but it'd have to be a bargain. Like, he'd have to take league minimum, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't take him for more than $1 million. I think that, I don't know, it's definitely not my favorite option just because of the fact that you just got absolutely whooped by New Jersey in the last few games because of the speed. Right. And to bring a guy like Lucic in definitely does not solve that issue. So, yeah.
You're telling me he couldn't shut down Jack Hughes one-on-one?
Maybe. Maybe if Jack Hughes is going to keep slipping on the ice like there's banana peels everywhere. But, Yeah, definitely not my favorite option, but you know what? If they could get him at league minimum, I would be for it because you could even have him as a 13th forward. And to have him as a
100%.
13th forward, I'd be all for that.
Dude, 100%. And at the very least, and this is a conversation my brother and I had yesterday, like when the Rangers are shopping for free agents this year, I think your biggest goal should be to create as much competition as possible. Because if you've got 2 or 3 guys fighting for one spot, maybe 2 spots, when they're playing, they're going to be playing their asses off every single night because they know damn well if they have a bad game, they are as easily replaced as they are put back into the lineup.
Yeah, there was way too much comfortability with the lineup. Especially going into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think someone could give Jimmy Vesey a run for his money.
Yes.
I really do.
I had him as the 13th forward on that sheet I just made out, and it's nothing against Jimmy Vesey. I thought Vesey played well enough. He played well above what anybody expected him to do this season, but I don't think it would hurt to have a little bit of internal competition where him and someone else is battling it out to be in the lineup every night.
Yeah, and also I thought his postseason was underwhelming.
I agree. It was. He was not that he was exposed, but you see like little areas we could maybe have done better with, and I think the fourth line needed some help.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, this is one that we talked about on stream a few times now. Freaking Derek Brassard, man. His hits per 60 or so there, 13 goals. He had 8 of them. I think 8 of them were even strength, 3 of them against the Rangers. Motherfucker. Big game brass. He's 50% in the faceoff dot. Now, the only issue with Brassard was his per 60 numbers were not great other than his hits. His net penalties were negative. He had bad giveaways to takeaways ratio. I think he had almost double the amount of giveaways and takeaways. And I worry about him being on a fourth line role if he's really kind of like the opposite of what your prototypical fourth liner is, which is causing turnovers, making big hits, and just pressuring down low. If he's giving the puck away, you're really not getting that. But like we just said, if there's an internal competition and he knows he's going to be a fourth liner and he could adapt to that role, it would be interesting to have Brassard down there.
Yeah, I agree. I'd be all for Brassard coming back. Trocheck, you're taking that number 16 off if he comes back. Just
you have to know that. You have to know that.
Yeah, you have to take it off. That's future Conn Smythe winner Derek Brassard for you right there.
God,
so, but yeah, I'd be so on board for Brassard back. So on board for that. Because I feel like maybe, like, I don't know, call me crazy, but there's something about Brassard coming back that makes me feel like there could be some lightning in a bottle there. I'm not going to say he's going to be what he was exactly on the Rangers, but maybe a 30-point guy, which I'll take that. I will take 100%.
That. If he can give you the production of Jimmy Vesey and put out double the amount of hits, which is what he's close to, he's winning 50% of his faceoffs. He knows the center position, so that pushes Gaudreau and Mott to the wings where I think they belong. That's a win in and of itself.
Yeah.
But big game brass. Oh, I freaking love just to watch him come down and rip one more clapper bar down in the dying seconds of a period in a Raiders uniform. Oh, fucking, I love Brassard. Now, this guy right here was the option that's actually, I take back what I said about Lucic. This guy surprised me the most, and this guy, I think, had me the most bricked up and excited. If we were going to go for a player, this is the guy I want. Josh Archibald.
Not familiar.
Dude, 0.78 net penalties per 60. 14th in the entire NHL. Took a lot of penalties, 14 minor penalties, but if he took 14 minor penalties and he had a net penalties per 60 at a 0.78, you know he's drawing a lot of penalties. 18.91 hits per 60. 6th in the NHL. 6th. I think amongst forwards, he was 3rd. This guy does nothing but throw body. And on top of throwing hits, 2.71 blocks per 60, which would be 7th on the Rangers. Only 0.48 giveaways per 60. He'd be 1st on the Rangers by a pretty wide margin. And another thing, too, and I didn't include this because I didn't have enough space. Despite him having a lot of hits and a lot of blocks and only a handful of giveaways, which would lead you to believe that, well, if that's the case, the puck's probably not in his possession pretty often. It's not even the case. His possession metrics, when he's on the ice, his line, I believe were net positive. So not only is he laying all these hits, he's blocking a ton of shots, but amongst doing this, he somehow has possession metrics that are positive for his team. I don't think there's any other player in the league that has positive metrics, has a hits per 60 like this, a blocks per 60 like that, and is not giving away the puck. This could be a weird, like he just maybe had a bizarre season, and he just broke the metric system. But this is a guy like if he's making $1 million a year and he's hitting this much, blocking this much, and not giving away the puck, this is a guy. Why not sign this guy if no one else is in on him?
The only question that I have is the block shots thing a product of Sullivan's system? That's my only question. Where if he comes here, is he going to be blocking shots the way that he was under Mike Sullivan? I just don't know.
That's a good point. But even if he's not blocking as many shots,
I mean, he's still doing a lot. Yeah.
0.91 hits per 60. That is out of this frigging. This guy is hitting everything that moves and some things that don't. Like this guy would drill the ref if he had the puck. Like that is crazy.
Yeah, the fact they still has positive possession metrics is unreal.
Dude, is that not crazy? And you know what? Now the only issue would be we just talked about he's not a center, so you wouldn't be able to push Gaudreau to the wing. But if you could slide Mott in at center and just bite the bullet there. Because if you got a guy again laying nearly 19 hits per 60 minutes, you could get away with it. And one thing I like to look at and like to think about when I look at the hits numbers, if someone's hitting that often, you know they're engaged. This guy's not taking a shift off. Like, you don't just get 18.91 hits per 60 by like, oh, every now and again, I'm just going to bump this guy or do this, do that. No, you're hitting every time you're on the freaking ice. And that shows me a guy that's engaged, a guy that's creating energy for his team when he's on the ice, and something the Rangers lacked. You know, I tell you the truth, especially looking back from games 3-7 against the Devils, even the game 6 that we won. I didn't feel like there was a single guy that was on the ice, first line through the fourth line, or even on defense, that when he was on the ice, he was proactively creating energy every time he was out there. And I feel like this is a guy that could do it.
Yeah. I'd be all for this signing. I really would. I just wonder what his price is, because the fact that he's doing all of that, that's interesting.
But you also wonder, I mean, it's a name that not very many people know. I'm sure scouts probably said something about him, but I don't know. I'm assuming he's going to get over $1 million, but I don't think he ever has gotten over $1 million in his career. So
he could be the next Kevin Rooney for the Rangers in a way.
I like that. Kevin Rooney living it up in Calgary. Oh, I'm sorry. He's with the not the Alberta Flames. What's their minor league team? The Stockton Heat. I think he's lighting it up.
No, they changed the name of it. I forgot what it is now, but
yeah, he's in the Hungry League.
Stupid. Yeah.
Kevin Rooney. But why not? I mean, if the price is right, why not?
Also, to be clear, I'm not saying that they play a similar game. I'm just saying that like it's an under the radar move that we don't expect this guy to do something for us, and then he just magically does.
Right, because Rooney was solid for us. I never disliked Rooney. He was a solid option. Why not? Like, this is a guy, why not give a shot? Especially if no one else is in on him, and it truly is a bargain deal. Why not sign him? Because he's like, if Drury's serious, like he wants a physical, feisty team that creates energy, this is like a guy that you would prioritize. Like a low-key signing, this guy just does everything in the physical department. And the last option I have for a bargain would be a Tyler Pitlick. This is somebody I talked about last year. 10.05 hits per 60 would still be first on the Rangers. His 1.85 takeaways per 60 would be sixth on the entire Rangers team. And 0.49 net penalties per 60 would be third on the team. So that's a pretty high net penalties per 60. This is like almost like a dumbed down, quieter version of Josh Archibald, but he's still doing all those same things. He's just maybe a more reliable name because he's been in the league longer. He's played more games. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. It's a name that doesn't excite me.
Yeah.
It doesn't excite me at all.
Just a name.
Yeah, it's just, he's just a guy.
Mm-hmm. Like his little numbers like that, the per 60s aren't bad, but like, he's been in the league for a while now, and I feel like if he was as good as his per 60 metrics suggest he is, everyone would be in on him, but he's typically not signed till late in the offseason every year. So there must be something there that I'm missing. But through this list, the options that I'm in love with the most, Archibald is my hands down favorite. Craig Smith is up there for me, dude. He's probably my number 2, and Brassard and Glendening are tied for third for me.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I completely agree. And then it would probably be Lucic and then Pitlick if I had to rank it.
I agree. But
the only thing is, I think Craig Smith, I would slightly say, I would probably go for him over Archibald.
I think he's
Just
safer,
because
right?
of the fact, yeah, he's safer, and the fact
Mhm.
that I feel like you could put him in a higher role if you need to. Where with Archibald, I
Right.
just feel like he's strictly a fourth liner.
Right. Yeah, he's fourth liner, nothing else.
Yeah.
So that's our bargain bins, right? So this is our 6 guys for the bargain bin. Now, guys, I expect to make over 1.1 million. There's one of them on here that is unlike. It's completely dissimilar to any other player on this list. And you'll see him right off the rip. But the other 4 are more of the same kind of, but maybe guys that belong at a top 9, not a bottom line role. So Garnet Hathaway, a guy that I ranted and raved and wanted so bad at the deadline, he went to Boston and actually did all right for himself in Boston. Not as good as he was in Washington, but still, his per 60 numbers, despite his hits, despite his fights, despite all that stuff, Garnet Hathaway had a positive net penalties per 60, 0.42, which would put him towards the top of the league, third on the Rangers. His 16.22 hits per 60 was 13th in the entire league. His 5.02 blocks per 60 was first amongst NHL forwards. Slightly below average possession numbers, but he still had 21 even strength points as a fourth liner. Be 10th on the Rangers. What do you think about Hathaway?
This is a name that I've loved for a while. I really have. And he's a guy that I really want the Rangers to get the deadline if it was possible. Obviously, it didn't happen, but yeah, I would be all for Garnet Hathaway if they could find a way to fit him in.
I agree. I feel like, dude, but Hathaway, someone's going to overpay him.
Yeah, he's gonna get the Barclay Goodrow contract. He's going
I
now.
think so. And I to tell you the truth, it'll probably be a team in the Metro Division.
It kind of smells like an Islanders move, doesn't it?
Yeah, Islanders or Devils, one of those two bastards. I
I
hope
don't think
not, but
Devils just because of the fact they have Meyer and Bratt to extend, so they
that's
might run
true.
low on
Yeah.
cap space. Plus, they overpaid Palat. I think it reeks of an Islanders move because they're going to move Josh Bailey,
Yep.
and you know that they're not bringing back Pierre Engvall, and why not make an upgrade there with Engvall and Garnet Hathaway? That just reeks of the perfect fit for the Islanders.
And I hate that too. I hate how good of a fit it is because, dude, he'd be awesome for the Rangers. And obviously, the same. Now, this goes back on the Mike Sullivan and Josh Archibald thing with the blocks for 60. Probably would not be that high with the Rangers. But the fact of the matter is, Dude was first amongst forwards and block shots. It takes more than just a coach to drive that into a player. This is a guy that's willing to put his body on the line in any way possible to make his team win, whether it's throwing a big hit or blocking shots. And 5.202 blocks per 60 is ridiculously high.
Yeah.
So, God, I would love this guy. It's probably not going to happen.
That's not a system thing. You don't fluke your way to first in block shots.
Right.
That doesn't happen.
The guy that prides himself on
even
it.
if it is a system thing, he might play under Laviolette again.
Oh, you never know. Dude, you never freaking know. But Hathaway's an interesting one. I just think on this list, he's the most unlikely, just because I think he's going to get overpaid.
Agreed.
Now, there's a couple Rangers killers on this list. The first one being Ryan Donato. And I picked Ryan Donato because he's a Rangers killer. 14 even strength goals will be 6 on the Rangers. 5.18 hits per 60, which surprised me. I did not think he was a guy that chucked bot against anybody but the Rangers. The stat that stood out to me the most was 2.7 takeaways per 60. It would be second on the whole Rangers team. And he took 13 minor penalties and still had a positive net penalties per 60. I think Ryan Donato stood out to me in the case that Othman and Cooley aren't ready. You need a third line guy. I don't see him as anything more than that. What do you think?
I agree, and I don't think he's going to get overpaid like the rest of the guys on this list. I think everyone else on this list is probably due to get overpaid. I think this is your cheapest option. I think this is one of your safer options too, because you know what you're going to get. The only question is, as a Rangers killer, because we saw how slow Jarl Halak got off to a start here, is he going to get off to a slow start being a Rangers killer too? I don't know, but that's just a stupid question. But outside of that, I would be on board with Donato.
I don't think it would hurt. Like you said, at the very least, it's low risk, low reward. You know, he's not going to give you 40, 50 points, but he'll probably give you between 25 and 35 points, and it'll just be an okay option. And what's the worst that happens? It doesn't work out. Oh, you waive him on a cheap contract? Somebody will probably claim him.
Plus, he looks like he could be Jimmy Vesey's brother, so why not?
That was a good one. We'll go to Jesper Foss next. I think this is an option that people probably think of the easiest. It would be awesome to have Foss back. He's gonna get overpaid. It's just not gonna happen. We could look at his numbers, but it's just
why, Gordon?
like
You just had to give him 1 extra year. That's all you had to do.
All you had to do.
For $2 million, you couldn't do it.
You know, it's like, and you let him go to a freaking division rival too.
Barkley Goodrow wouldn't have been a Ranger if Jesper Foss was still here too.
Yep. I know.
I
don't know. I would love Jesper Foss back. Number one, I don't think he comes back on his own accord, and number two, I think someone's gonna overpay him.
Yeah, someone's 1,000% gonna overpay him. He's due for that type of payday.
He'll probably make over $2 million a year.
I'd be surprised if it's not 3.
Pain. Absolute freaking pain. Thanks a lot, GM Jeff Gordon, you piece of crap. Anyways, I'm going to save this one for last. So I'm going to go right to Evan Rodriguez. So Evan Rodriguez, the only reason he's on this list is because he's a Rangers killer.
Yep.
It's like the only reason, because his per 60 numbers are awful. His net penalties are pretty solid at 0.15, but his per 60 numbers are brutal. He had a decent season point-wise, but like, aside from playing against the Rangers, it doesn't seem like he's great. He's just solid, and he seems really streaky. Like, when he gets going, he's good. But then when he's quiet, he's like really, really quiet. So I don't know. I think this is another guy that's probably going to get overpaid by somebody, and I don't know if he'll be a dodge bullet or not. But then again, it seems like sometimes the Rangers killers, when they're signed, they're no longer streaky, and they're just good players through and through. So I don't know. Could be a good signing, but I think probably one I'd stay away from.
Yeah, I agree. I would stay away. The year to get him was last offseason, and you passed on him. I'd pass on him again.
I wouldn't be surprised if someone gave him like shit, if Blake Coleman, got 4 times 4.5, I mean, I'm sure Rodriguez, he might not get that much because you would think NHL GMs would learn. Hold on, it's the NHL. They don't learn. My mistake. Someone will pay him stupid amounts of money, and I just don't think it's necessary. But the last guy I wanted to talk about, and someone who I think would be, this is like a boomer bust player, because I think he's pretty lost amongst NHL GMs. I don't really think anyone's interested in him. I don't really think anybody even cares about him. He had 2 goals and 29 assists this year. Jonathan Drouin. Now, I only added 2 per 60 numbers here because I could put as many per 60 numbers on here as I want. I don't think it'll make a difference. The fact that Jonathan Drouin is clearly a lost soul right now. This is a guy that was drafted, believed he had elite talent. In juniors, he lit it up. When he first came into the NHL with the Tampa Bay Lightning, he had elite talent. His numbers might not have showed it, but he was playing at a ridiculous, fast, good hands, elite shot, all these things, but attitude. He got sent down. He was pissed. He requested a trade. Went to Montreal, had a couple good years, but never got better. Had mental health issues. He sat out for a while and just never really climbed back. You wonder if maybe Montreal just held on to him too long. They should have got rid of him sooner, but 1.59 blocks per 60. It's showing me he's engaged. He's at least trying. 2.15 takeaways per 60. If he didn't give a shit and he wasn't trying, well, he wouldn't be poke checking and trying to take the puck off players. He just let guys skate around him. And his giveaway numbers were not bad. I think his takeaways to giveaways were on the extreme positive towards takeaways. And I think the reason you take a look at Jonathan Drouin is because when you're in cap situations like the Rangers are, you need a boomer or bust. You need to get lucky. You need the Benoit Pouliot signing. You need guys that you are going to sign that no one else believes in, and you get lucky. He joins your team, and he just booms. I think if the Rangers signed Jonathan Drouin to like a 1-year 1.5, and I'm just making up numbers, you sign him to be your third-line winger to complement Hedl, Trocheck, or Ottman, or whoever's on that third line. And I think the worst thing that happens is you have a guy that's going to feed them the puck, make plays, and just be a mediocre, decent third-line player. And I think the best-case scenario is that this guy finds his footing. He finds the elite level and the confidence he had when he first came into the league, and then you have an elite left-handed shot, left-handed one-timer, elite passer, and a guy that could be a difference maker. You won't have him for more than a year if that happens, but you might not need him for more than a year. Well, I don't know. Like, what do you think?
My only question is that boom potential there? Because I feel like under a player's coach like Marty St. Louis, it would be easier for him to be able to play his game freely, and it would be easier for him to, show that elite ability that he has. And the fact that he couldn't do that,
it's a good point.
Is kind of alarming. But at the same time, maybe a change of scenery is what he needs. Maybe Montreal is just not a good fit, and maybe playing with better players here in New York would help him out. But I don't know. I mean, I understand the point because you could get lightning in a bottle here, but it's tough. It's tough because I feel like there are going to be other GMs too that are going to feel the same way here about Druin and potentially make this move.
You know who I think he's going to sign with and who's going to grab him?
Who do you think?
Colorado.
Yeah, this reeks of a Colorado move.
Him and McKinnon reunite at the old Halifax Moosehead days, and who knows? And I think that makes the most sense, especially if him and McKinnon were boys.
I'm just going to go grab my food. Just you can keep going.
Go ahead. But just talking to y'all. Jonathan Drouin, I just think if you just need a guy to just come in and be okay steady on the third line like Benoit Pouliot was for the Rangers the year the Rangers went to the Cup, I think Jonathan Drouin's a safe option because I don't think he's going to get overpaid by anybody unless it's Colorado. I think Colorado is probably his number one option, but I don't think it hurts. At the very least, do your due diligence, and I think a change of scenery could benefit a guy like Jonathan Drouin, and it just might work. And you know what? If he doesn't work on the third line, try him on the second line with Panarin. Try him on the top line, and maybe he could be the Buchnevich to Kreider and Zibanejad. It doesn't hurt to, at the very least, just give him a look. And I don't think he's going to cost very much. I don't. I don't see any world where he costs over $2 million a year. But the pricier options, I'll be honest with you guys, they don't really stand out to me. Not a single one makes me really jump off the page like I'd be willing to overpay this guy. Not a single one of them. Not with the cap situation that exists within us right now. I just don't see how it's an option. I don't. I think the bargain bin shopping is the best bet, and I think the only guy I'd really go after, if it's within reason, is either Donato or Drouin. I don't see the Rangers going after Rodriguez because he's going to get overpaid. Garnet Hathaway is going to get extremely grossly overpaid, and Jesper Fast will get overpaid too. And they'll get overpaid with money that we don't have unless we move a guy out. And to tell you the truth, I don't think the Rangers are going to trade Barclay Goodrow. I think it's so obvious that the Rangers just aren't going to do it. I think if they do it, they present themselves with other options. But I don't know. It's a tough call. Let's go over the comments real quick. Thank you, Iceman. What do you think about Sheldon Keefe? I'll wait for Python to come back. Broussard needs to come back. I would love Broussard back. Fourth line game 6. Yeah, the fourth line's got to get better. And I think the main idea of this list was looking at guys that could fit in on that fourth line and maybe move up and down the line if they need to, but mostly fourth line. Yeah, Iceman, I agree. That Josh Archibald, man, looks good. Yeah, I think we're passed on Foss too. Yeah, I think Drouin and McKinnon is probably the most likely scenario. I think that's what we end up seeing.
Yeah.
It sucks. It sucks because it makes so much sense and it would be a cool option for the Rangers. I just don't see anything else. And then just to end it off, I mean, this is just who I had as my most intriguing options. Like, I think the ones that could be the weirdest, but somehow might work. Hathaway, I just don't think it's going to happen because he'll get overpaid. Pitlick, I just think is too mid. Lucic is it's just Milan Lucic. You never know what you might get. Drouin on the boomer bust. Archibald on the numbers that just stood out like crazy. And Glendening on the fact that it just makes just almost too much sense.
Yeah. I think you're sleeping on a name for sure with
Craig Smith.
This. No, not like who you had. I think you're sleeping on a name that the Rangers might target. Corey Perry.
You know why I didn't put him on this list?
What was the reason?
I think he's either going to re-sign in Tampa Bay or retire.
That's a fair reason.
I don't see him. I think a guy like that at his age now, he's going to be 38 years old next season. I think he's so comfortable in Tampa Bay that if he's not there, I don't think he wants to be anywhere else. Although I don't know. I hear Winnipeg gets pretty warm this time of year. Come on, we can't.
Degrees!
We can't have a stream without shitting on Winnipeg just a little bit.
30!
Oh,
we're gonna die! The world's ending!
Get your bathing suit! We're going to the beach! Oh my God. Imagine like it's summertime and you're still ice fishing. Anyways. But I don't know. I mean, those are just options I had out there. The Rangers have no money to do anything. Even if we offloaded Barclay Goodrow, there's no options to do shit. There's nothing there.
I don't know if I would sleep on a Ryan Lindgren trade this offseason.
God, I hope not, dude.
I hope not too, because it makes sense to keep him at just 3 million for his final year and then let him go. But at the same time, you could want assets for him, and
If you get
I don't.
assets, get your assets. You know.
Yes, 100%. Because like the question is, will this new head coach finally let go of the thing that needs to be let go of? That being the Trouba Miller pair. Put Miller up with Fox, so we stop this whole Lindgren and Fox are a pair just because they're best friends thing. Are we finally gonna stop that? I you know that I want something like this. You know that I want something like this.
And I'm not even advocating. Like, I'm not even trying to be an advocate right now for trading Panarin, but this just brought to mind. I'm not too far behind you, dude, especially after the playoffs. But if you're talking about opening up cap space, I think you could open up a little bit of cap space by trading Panarin. I don't think he waives his no moving clause for a whole lot of teams. But what I made this video, and I put a lot of thought into it, and the more I thought about it, the less options there were. I was going to draw a 10 scenario trade list. I can only fucking make 3.
I mean, Colorado could be in the mix.
But then you wonder, like, when Landeskog comes back, where are they going to get that money from?
Fair point.
I think if you really want to do boom or bust, and Panarin will waive somewhere, not to change the subject completely, but I think Patrick Laine would be kind of cool.
I would love that.
And Sean Corelli, there's a good fourth-line center right there.
Yeah.
It makes sense. I mean, Laine needs to change the scenery. Panarin's familiar with Columbus. And what's the worst thing that happens for the Rangers? Oh, we get a guy that shoots the puck. We've never had one of those before, so why not try it out?
Yeah. I mean, we had closest thing was Tarasenko this year.
And I don't think he's coming back. I don't think he's coming back.
I'd love another guy that I think is going to be on the Islanders' radar.
Oh, God.
And it hurts. Just because of the fact that he wanted to be in the area. And, you know, if he wants to still be in New York and not stress too much about moving his family, then he could go right next door.
It's a shame. It's just such bad timing for the Rangers right now. You know, it's like you got your guys coming off their entry-level contracts. You've got, it's just, I don't know, man.
And Agent Smith, to get to your comment about Lindgren the last 2 playoffs being banged up, that's part of why I think the Rangers might look to move him, because he's just constantly banged up. And I get it because he's working his ass off and he's one of those players. But the best thing that you could get is from a player is games. And
right. 100%.
I just don't know, because they can't make the same mistake that they did with Stahl and Girardi. They can't. And I know that Lindgren will be younger when they sign him to a big deal, or if they sign him to a big deal. But I don't know if it's a lock that they're going to do it. I don't think so. Because where are they getting the cap space?
That's like, now this is the biggest issue, especially with COVID and the salary cap not going up. You don't have any other options. You just don't.
Yep.
I don't know. I don't know where you find that money. I seriously, I have no idea.
Yeah, it's amazing that players are demanding their asking price more during a flat cap, essentially.
But the issue is, I mean, guys are still getting paid. You get dude, like, we live in a world where Blake Coleman got $4.5 million a year because he had a good year on a fourth line with a Stanley Cup winning team. Yep. Same thing with Barclay Goodrow. He got just under $4 million because he was a good fourth liner.
Yeah.
So these guys have every right to ask for it. They might not get it, but they've got every right to ask for it when so and so is getting overpaid. That is just a mid-ass player, and they're like, well, if they can make that money, why can't I? Because I'm not a gritty grinder.
Yeah, it's just annoying, because like then you have all these players too. They're coming off their entry level deals, so they're all getting their paydays. It's like it's too complicated with the cap, and I just find it so dumb that you could front load and back load the way that you pay the players, but you can't do it for their cap hits. You can't restructure contracts. In the NFL, you can. Why can't you restructure contracts? Granted, we can't be too mad because Jeff Gordon is a moron and he bid against himself, I should say, on Jacob Trouba. So
no, you're 100% right.
Like 2-3 million in cap space there.
I still never understood how Trouba got $8 million a year right off the rip. After he'd only go to 2 places, he's in one of the places, and you felt forced to give him $8 million a year. We didn't even give Ryan McDonough $8 million a year, and we signed him at a similar age.
And if the other team that wanted Trouba wanted the offer sheet him, go ahead.
Like, seriously.
I'll take the draft picks.
Right, like, oh no. 2 first-round picks, a second and a third. How will we ever recover? Oh no.
Not draft capital.
Do you know how many Patrick Nemeths you can offload with those picks? You know what I'm saying?
A lot, knowing this organization. They're gonna keep making mistakes like that, so.
Yeah, but like knowing our luck, they would have like let Trouba walk, and then they would have like fucking signed like they would have given out like an Andrew Ladd contract to somebody and just really regretted it.
I could promise you this organization regrets giving Trocheck that contract. Can promise you.
The way he played in the playoffs, I agree. But to tell you the truth, I think Trocheck is at least savable if he's on a third line role, playing similar minutes and similar style to what he played when he was in Carolina. I think he's at least savable.
Yeah, I agree.
Whereas Panarin is who Panarin is. Like this is like what you've got.
I think they regret it because, in hindsight, the main reason they gave that deal to Trocheck is 2 reasons. One, they weren't 100% sure with Hedl, which is fair. 2, Panarin's a little shit and doesn't like playing with Hedl.
Yep.
So
there should have been another solution there, and it didn't involve Trocheck. It involved moving somebody else.
Yep.
Because now we're stuck with Panarin. Because now his thing is tanked. Do you guys think Kane will come back on a cheap deal? I think he'd love to, but I think the thing with Patrick Kane is he's going to be LTIR the majority of the year. So we probably, even if we did have it, we probably wouldn't see him till February. Yeah. I don't think it's a bad idea. Like for a cap crunch, it works out perfect.
Yeah, I think he wants to be here. I do.
You know, Lucas, too, that could be a double-edged sword because Trocheck could end up doing better off without Gallant. You never know. You never know. I mean, these things are so unpredictable.
Yeah, I just don't know with the coach at all. That's a whole different.
Who they bring in.
That's a whole different rabbit hole we could dive into because, man, I'm scared no matter who the coach is. I am.
I agree 100%.
Because I still question how much it is the players. The fact that they've ran 2 coaches out of town now. If you do it with a third, at what point is it on you? Because
I agree.
How many girlfriends are we going to go through before we accept that you're the problem?
Right, exactly. When you take a look at yourself in the mirror instead.
Yep.
You think the NHL would figure this out too? Because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So out of the 32 teams in the league, only 10 teams have more than $1 million in cap space right now. Oh no, we don't need to raise the cap.
No.
Oh, escrow. We need our money back. We don't have enough billions. Like, fucking get over yourself.
There's gonna be a name that lingers on the free agent market for longer than they should.
Dude, 100%. Well, here, let's take a look at the free agency real quick. Players, free agents.
Tarasenko very well could be that guy.
Wouldn't surprise me. He'll end up somewhere like a Mike Hoffman surprise deal.
Yep.
Expiry status, UFA. Get results. So, wow, I didn't realize Alex Killorn's a UFA.
Oh, another Ranger killer.
64 points last year. He'll get overpaid. Alex Killorn might make over $6 million a year.
Oh, he's going to get the pot deal. 100%.
Max Domi's a free agent. JT Compher. Tarasenko. Michael Bunting. He'll probably get overpaid a little bit. Barbashev. Gosper. Athanasiou. Like, it's not an overwhelming free agent class. It's not. But it's an okay one. I think what's going to create more drama this year is the RFA class. Because obviously you have Lafreniere, right? But you've got Jesper Bratt, Timo Meier, Alex DeBrincat. Well, hold on. It's got to be guys that could be offer sheeted. Those are 10.2 Cs that can get offer sheeted, I believe. Right? No. It's the other ones. Which ones can get offer sheeted?
I'm not 100% sure. I thought any RFA could.
Because I don't know. I don't think Zegras can. Oh, let's pretend he can. So you've got Bratt, Meyer. Well, good luck to the Devils with that. Bratt, Meyer, DeBrincat, Zegras, Vince Dunn, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Troy Terry, Matthias Michelli, Daniel Sprong still has RFA rights. The dude's like 110 years old.
Yeah, how is he still?
He had
I
46
remember
points.
playing with him on Chell and like Chell 13. What are you talking about RFA rights?
Like seriously,
get out of here.
When he still had like what is it, four yellow stars.
Yeah, he was on like
For
the
potential.
Ducks or some shit.
Mm-hmm. He had 46 points in 66 games. Morgan Frost, Keandre, Gabe Velarde, Evan Bouchard. He'll get paid after his free agencies. Laffy, Noah Cates. Like this Noah Cates guy, 38 points in 82 games. Alexi Lafreniere, 39 points in 81 games. Like, come on, dude. You got some no-name guy a point below you. Cole Caulfield, Cody Glass, Shane Pinto, Ross Colton, Trent Frederick. I think there's going to be more drama with RFAs than UFAs this year.
Well, yeah, especially with a guy like DeBrincat. I have no idea where that guy's going to go.
He doesn't want to be in Ottawa.
No, which...
Who the hell would?
Yeah.
They don't even have a friggin' owner, dude. Like,
Snoop Dogg might be one of their owners. Like, come on.
Like, oh, nice. Snoop Dogg and Deadpool are my owners. Like, sick. Nothing against them because they've got a lot of money, but how invested are they going to be in the players? Their investment is making money. They don't give a rat's ass about winning anything.
No.
Vince Dunn's an interesting one. Vince Dunn, 64 points and a Norris candidate.
Yeah.
He'll get Norris votes.
Troy
Terry. Oh, Troy Terry would be so sick. Too bad the Rangers don't have any friggin' money.
Yeah, and the Ducks do, so...
Imagine they go on it they just go on like an absolute heater because they can't win another lottery for like 2 years now. So like they could just go out and just start offer sheeting guys.
That sucks so much though for them. Like they was out on Crosby, it was out on Bedard.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the Blackhawks got Bedard. Who's surprised?
Yeah, seriously, fucking Chicago. Like
that's why I'm done believing in karma.
Yeah, I agree with that. Oh, God. I don't know. I think the most ideal, I say the most ideal, the only way the Rangers could accrue any cap space this year is trading Panarin. And because he's got a full no move, there's not going to be able to move him. It's a pipe dream.
Nope.
It's a literal pipe dream.
We're stuck in a weird situation.
We are. A bad one, too.
Yeah. This is the most lost I felt as a Ranger fan. I said it yesterday in my video. It truly is the most lost I've ever felt.
Way too many question marks. Way too many.
Yeah. From top to bottom, pretty much.
Such a pain in the ass. But all right, I gotta wrap it up. I gotta go pick up my little sister from school.
All right.
It's her birth week, so she gets to leave school an hour early. God. I could be bleeding from the face and I would not get picked up from school. like seriously, like it would take a lot. Like you'd have to launch a brick at my face and have all my teeth on the floor, and I might get like an early dismissal. I might.
Yeah, maybe. But then the nurse will tell you that ice and a Band-Aid will work, and it's like you'll be fine. like you're walking there, like my elbow's just like bending the wrong way, like oh my elbow. Oh, have this ice, sweetie. No, we can't give you any Motrin, no ibuprofen. Go ahead, go sit down. I'll call mom. Yeah. Yep. Here's a Band-Aid too.
Oh my God! All right, guys, thank you all very much for tuning in. This was a very fun stream. Hope we created a little bit of interest, a little bit of intrigue in y'all's heads. You gave you something to think about. You guys comment below your thoughts. This will be uploaded on YouTube if you missed the stream. So if you're watching on YouTube, thank you all for watching. I won't be able to read your comments live, but go ahead and comment. I'll respond to them anyways. Evan, thank you a ton for hopping on with us. Always a pleasure having you. On. Be sure to check him out on Twitter, YouTube, on all the things. He'll be live often. He posts almost daily. The guy's on top of it. Y'all take care.
Random Ranger stream is coming.
There you go. So, oh yes, the Random Ranger stream. Yes, guys, stay tuned for that. That'll be all over my Twitter. That's gonna be fun. Oh, I'm so hyped for that. Guys, take care. Thank you all for watching. Peace out.